The first week on Earth was a nightmare for Kylara. Everything about human life confused and disgusted her. She couldn't understand why Diane insisted on preparing food when nutritional tablets were clearly more efficient. She found the human obsession with washing their bodies twice daily excessive. And the concept of working at a job seemed beneath someone of her status. Diane tried her best to help the alien adjust. She had worked with the Zalorian exchange program for 6 months, but had never hosted someone so difficult. Do all Zalorians act like this? She asked one evening after Kylara refused to eat the dinner she had prepared. Like what, said Kylara, her antennae twitching with irritation, like they are better than everyone else. Diane said, honestly? Other Zalorian visitors seemed interested in learning about Earth culture. You act like everything here is beneath you. Kylara looked away. That is because it is. Diane sighed and began clearing the table. I was told Zalorians valued knowledge. I guess I was misinformed. The word stung Kylara more than she expected. Zalorians did value knowledge above all else. It was their greatest pride, their strongest cultural trait. To be accused of rejecting knowledge even by a human was shameful. The next morning, Kylara made an effort. She asked Diane to explain the strange drink she made each morning. It's coffee. Diane said, surprised by the question. It's made from beans that grow on Earth. Most humans drink it to help wake up in the morning. Kylara sniffed the dark liquid. It smells interesting, Diane smiled. Would you like to try some? That day marked a turning point. Kylara began to observe Diane with new eyes. The human female was intelligent for her species. She knew the stars in ways that surprised Kylara. She worked hard teaching others and seemed to find joy in it, something no Zalorian would understand. One evening, Diane invited Kylara to join her at the University Observatory. I have access tonight, she explained. We can look at the stars together. Kylara had never used such primitive equipment, but she agreed. As they peered through the telescope, Diane pointed out various celestial bodies, many of which Kylara knew by different names. See that cluster there, asked Diane. We call that the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters. It's one of my favorites. On my world we call it the Daughters of Light, said Kylara. There is a story that 7 princesses once lived there before coming to Zaloria. Diane looked at her with genuine interest. Tell me the story. No one had ever asked Kylara about her world stories before. Zalorians did not share tales, they shared memories. But here under Earth stars with this curious human, Kylara found herself wanting to tell the ancient tale. As she spoke, Diane listened with such attention, such wonder that Kylara felt something strange, a kind of warmth spreading through her chest. When she finished the story, Diane smiled. That's beautiful, she said. Maybe our worlds aren't so different after all. We have similar stories. About the same stars that night, Kylara sent her first positive report back to Zaloria. The human female possesses unexpected knowledge of stellar cartography and shows intelligence beyond initial assessment. 2 days later, Diane announced they were going on a trip. My sister Beth just had a baby. She explained we're going to visit them in the hospital. Kylara had studied human reproduction in her briefing materials, but had never seen a newborn human. She watched with fascination as Diane packed a bag with small items wrapped in colorful paper. What are those? She asked. Gifts for the baby, said Diane. It's tradition. The hospital was a strange place filled with humans in various states of health. Kylara stayed close to Diane as they navigated, the corridors, finally arriving at a room where a tired-looking human female lay in a bed holding a tiny wrapped bundle. Beth. This is my exchange student. Kylara, said Diane. Kylara. This is my sister Beth and my new niece Lily. Beth smiled weakly. Hello, she said. It's nice to meet you. Would you like to see her? Before Kylara could answer, Diane encouraged her forward. The princess found herself looking down at the smallest human she had ever seen. The infant's face was red and wrinkled. Its eyes closed, its tiny hands curled into fists. What happens to her mind? Asked Kylara, her voice barely audible. Beth looked confused. I don't understand. Her consciousness explained. Kylara. On my world, offspring receive memories from both parents during conception. This child seems empty. Both sisters exchanged looks before Diane explained, human babies are born with fresh minds, Kylara. They learn everything. New Kylara stared at the infant with new interest. A being born without predetermined knowledge, without ancestral memories. A completely blank slate. She had never heard of such a thing, may I? She hesitated. Touch her. Beth nodded and Kylara gently placed one blue finger against the baby's cheek. The infant turned toward the touch, her tiny mouth opening, her eyes fluttering. She feels nothing from me, said Kylara in wonder. When a Zalorian touches an infant, they sense all their ancestors' memories. But she just feels my touch. She likes you, said Beth as the baby gripped Kylara's finger back at the apartment. That night, Kylara could not stop thinking about what she had witnessed. She accessed the Zalorian database on human development and spent hours reading about how human children learned through experience, through teaching, through making mistakes. Their minds developed over years, not predetermined at birth, but shaped by choices and experiences. Diane found her still reading at dawn. Are you okay? She asked. Concerned, Kylara looked up, her eyes wide with excitement. Your species is fascinating, she said. The way your children develop, they can become anything. Diane smiled as she started making coffee. That's the idea. Everyone gets to choose their own path. Choose, Kylara repeated the word, sounding strange on her tongue. On Zaloria, no one chose. Their path was determined by their lineage, their genetic profile, the memories they received at conception. Royal children became royalty. Scientists, children became scientists. Everyone fulfilled their predetermined function. For the first time, Kylara wondered what it would be like to choose, what it would be like to have a child who could choose. No wonder humans seemed so chaotic, so unpredictable. They were making choices every day, choices that no Zalorian ever had to make. That night, as Diane slept, Kylara sent another report to Zaloria. Human offspring development requires further study. The absence of memory transfer creates unexpected outcomes. Request extended research parameters. What Kylara didn't know was that back on Zaloria, her reports were causing concern. The elders had expected her to confirm the primitive nature of humans. Instead, she seemed increasingly fascinated by them. Elder Vorax called an emergency meeting with the king. Your daughter is becoming too invested. In human ways, he warned, this punishment may be having the opposite effect. The royal palace of Zaloria buzzed with whispers and laughter as Princess Kylara stood before the elders' council, her antennae twitching with anger. The 7 tall, blue-skinned council members could barely contain their amusement as they delivered their verdict. This is your diplomatic assignment, Princess, said Elder Vorax, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Your father thinks it appropriate for you to understand human culture by living with one. Kylara knew this was punishment for her recent rebellion against royal protocols. She had publicly questioned the ancient mating rituals of her people, bringing shame to the royal bloodline. Now they were sending her to Earth to a human as some kind of twisted joke. I refuse. She hissed, her blue skin darkening with emotion. I am a royal daughter of the 5th house. My place is here among our people. Elder Vorax leaned forward, his long fingers forming a steeple. The decision is final. Princess, you leave tomorrow. The human female has already been selected. She believes this is a cultural exchange program. She knows nothing of your true status. That night, Kylara stormed through the crystal corridors of the palace, her personal attendants scurrying behind, trying to keep up. She burst into her father's private chambers, ignoring the guards' protests. Father, you cannot do this, she pleaded. King Zorn turned slowly from the viewing portal where he had been watching the 3 moons of Zaloria rise. His tall figure cast a long shadow across the polished floor. You have left me no choice, daughter, he said, his voice tired. Questioning the sacred mating protocols in front of the public was bad enough, but to suggest our people should mate for love like primitive species, that is unacceptable. Kylara stood her ground. Love is not primitive, father. It exists throughout the galaxy. Even our ancient texts speak of it before the genetic purity laws. The king waved a dismissive hand. Those are fairy tales. Kylara, our people evolved beyond such base instincts. Centuries ago, we mate for genetic compatibility for advancement of our species. Nothing more, but what about Mother, whispered Kylara. Did you feel nothing for her? A flash of pain crossed the king's face before his expression hardened again. This discussion is over. You will go to Earth. You will learn why their chaotic mating systems lead to suffering, and you will return ready to accept your predetermined mate. The next morning, Kylara boarded the royal transport vessel with only a small container of personal belongings. Her blue skin had paled to a light lavender, her usual sign of distress. Her attendant, Mila, the only person she had been allowed to say goodbye to, pressed a small crystal into her hand for comfort. My Princess Mila whispered, it contains memories of home. The journey to Earth took 2 solar cycles. During that time, Kylara studied the information provided about her host, a human female named Diane Mason, 30 Earth years old, unmarried, no offspring, an educator at something, called a university where she taught about stars. How primitive thought Kylara's Zalorian children were born, knowing the star patterns of every major system. Their memories transferred from parents at conception. No need for teaching what was already known. When the transport finally reached Earth, it was night. The ship landed invisibly in a desert area outside a place called Las Vegas, Nevada. The captain activated Kylara's perception filter, a device that would make her appear human to most observers, and gave her final instructions. The human female lives 10 kilometers in that direction, he said, pointing to distant lights. Remember, Princess, this mission is classified. Maintain your cover story at all times. The transport left her alone with only a small location device to guide her way. Kylara had never walked so far in her life. On Zaloria, she had servants and hover platforms. Now she trudged through sand, her royal robes gathering dust, her feet aching by the time she reached the coordinates. A small apartment building on the edge of the city. She was exhausted, angry, and covered in earth dirt. She found the door number from her briefing and pressed the communication button. The door opened, revealing a human female with dark, curly hair and warm brown eyes. She wore simple clothes, and her mouth opened in surprise when she saw Kylara. You must be the exchange student. She said, I was told you would arrive tomorrow. Diane Mason, Kylara tried to maintain her royal composure, despite her disheveled state. I am Kylara of the 5th House of Zel. She began before remembering her cover. I am Kylara. The cultural exchange student. Diane invited her inside. The apartment was small by royal standards, but neat and filled with strange objects. Kylara recognized star charts on the walls along with framed images of humans. Diane showed her to a small room. You must be tired from your journey, she said kindly. This is your room. I hope it's comfortable. I wasn't sure what your people need. Kylara looked around at the simple bed, the desk, the window overlooking the city lights. Never in her life had she slept in such humble quarters. She was about to complain when she remembered her mission, to learn about humans, to understand their primitive ways. Thank you. She managed to say, her voice stiff that night as Kylara lay on the strange soft bed. She held Mila's crystal to her chest and allowed herself one moment of weakness. A single tear slid down her blue cheek. What she didn't know was that this punishment, this joke played by the elders, would change not just her life but the future of 2 worlds. And it would all begin with the human woman sleeping in the next room. Mila's reply came 3 Earth days later, encrypted and hidden within a standard supply package supposedly containing Zalorian nutrition supplements. The information she provided confirmed what Kylara had suspected. The genetic combination was possible, but had been forbidden by royal decree 5 centuries ago when the purity laws were established. Kylara shared the information with Diane, who had spent the intervening days researching human genetic engineering and hybrid species theory. Her apartment was now covered with notes, books, and digital research. So it is possible, said Diane, studying the Zalorian data on her tablet. Technically, yes, said Kylara, but we would need access to equipment that exists only on Zaloria, in the royal laboratories. Diane frowned. So it's impossible after all. Not necessarily, said Kylara. I have been thinking. There are Zalorian scientists who disagree with the genetic purity laws. Scientists who have been conducting forbidden research in secret. I could contact them. Diane looked alarmed. That sounds dangerous. It is admitted, Kylara. They are considered rebels, traitors to our species, but they might help us, especially if they knew a royal princess supported their cause, while Kylara worked on contacting the rebel scientists. Diane finally confided in her sister Beth. The two women sat in Beth's living room while baby Lily slept nearby. You can't be serious, said Beth when Diane finished explaining. I mean, an alien baby, a hybrid. This is crazy even for you, I know, said Diane. But you haven't seen how their world works? Beth, children born with predetermined paths never allowed to choose for themselves. Kylara wants something different for her child. Something we take for granted? Beth shook her head. But why you? Why not find another Zalorian who shares her views? Diane looked away. Because she trusts me. Because we've become friends, and because she studied human parents and decided I would be a good one. Beth looked at her sister carefully. Do you love her? Diane hesitated. I don't know what I feel, it's all happened so fast. But when I think about raising a child with her, yes, something feels right. 2 weeks later, Kylara received a response from the rebel scientists. They were willing to help, but required Kylara to meet with them in person. They had a small research vessel that could retrieve her from Earth, but the window of opportunity was narrow. The Zalorian fleet monitored all space traffic near Earth, and the rebels could only risk approaching during a meteor shower that would mask their signature. This is happening too fast, said Diane when Kylara told her the news. You would leave Earth, only temporarily, promised Kylara. I would return with the necessary equipment. We could do the procedure here. But what about your people? Asked Diane. Wouldn't they stop you? Kylara nodded. They would try, which is why I must be careful. This is considered treason. Diane, not just breaking protocol but betraying our species. Genetic purity. What would happen if they caught you? Kylara looked away. Memory wipe, genetic reconditioning. I would forget you, forget Earth, forget everything I have learned here. Diane reached for Kylara's hand. Then don't go. It's too dangerous. I must, said Kylara firmly. This may be our only chance. The night before Kylara was scheduled to leave, a knock came at the apartment door. Diane opened it to find two men in dark suits. M's. Mason, said one, flashing a badge. We are with the United States government. We need to speak with you and your alien guest. Diane's heart sank. How did you? Please, said the agent. We have been monitoring the situation since the princess arrived inside the apartment. The agents explained that Earth's governments had long been aware of Zalorian presence. Their diplomatic corps had established relations decades ago, though the general public remained unaware. We know why Princess Kylara is here, said the first agent. And we know what you two are planning. Kylara stepped forward, her perception filter deactivated, revealing her true, blue-skinned form. This is a private matter, she said with royal authority. It does not concern your government. The agent smiled. Actually, it does. Your plan to create the first human Zalorian hybrid has significant diplomatic implications. Princess, the United States government has an interest in ensuring such a momentous event happens safely and with proper oversight. What are you saying? Asked Diane. We're offering help, said the second agent. The rebel scientists you contacted have been compromised. Their communications are being monitored by Zalorian security forces. If the princess leaves Earth, she will be captured. Kylara paled. How do you know this? We have our sources, said the agent. We also have resources. A joint human Zalorian research facility, in a secure location where you could safely complete your project under diplomatic protection. Diane and Kylara exchanged looks. This could be a trap, said Diane. The agent handed them a data pad. On it was a message from Beth, Diane's sister. It's, okay. Di, read the message. They contacted me first. I made them promise to protect you both. I think this is your best chance. Kylara studied the agents. Your government would support the creation of a hybrid child. Why? The first agent smiled diplomatically. Earth has an interest in stronger ties with the Zaloria. Princess, a child with both human and Zolorian heritage would symbolize a new relationship between our worlds, and my people asked Kylara, the elders, the king, we believe your father might be more supportive than you think, said the agent enigmatically. Now we need to move quickly. The Zolorian royal fleet has dispatched ships to retrieve you. They will arrive within 48 hours. That night, Diane and Kylara were transported to a secret facility, deep in the Nevada desert. Unlike the sterile laboratories Kylara had expected, the facility was designed to feel like a home, with comfortable living quarters. Alongside state-of-the-art medical equipment, a human doctor with knowledge of Zolorian physiology explained the procedure to them. The genetic material from both Diane and Kylara would be combined using modified Zolorian technology. The embryo would develop in an artificial womb for 7 months, a compromise between human and Zolorian gestation periods. The doctor showed them simulations of what their child might look like. Most likely blue-tinted skin, some vestigial antennae sensitivity to emotions like Zolorians, but with human learning capacity and neural plasticity. Is it ethical? Asked Diane. Creating a child who will be neither fully human nor fully Zolorian. A child who might not belong in either world. The doctor smiled gently. Throughout human history, children of different cultures have bridged worlds. Your child would not be the first to navigate multiple identities. As they prepared for the procedure, Kylara received an unexpected message from Zoloria. It was from her father, the king. My daughter read the message. We know what you plan to do. The elders have voted to strip you of your royal title and genetic lineage. Should you proceed with this abomination, you will no longer be recognized as a Zolorian. Diane found Kylara staring at the message, her blue skin pale. Are you okay? She asked gently. Kylara looked up. I expected this, she said. But seeing it written, it makes it real. I am about to become an exile. Diane took her hand. Then we will be exiles together, she said. Our child will have a home with us. Whatever happens. The next morning, as they prepared for the final genetic extraction, a technician burst into the room. Ships have entered Earth's atmosphere, he said. The Zolorian royal fleet. They are demanding the princess be turned over to them. The facility director, a stern woman named Laura, entered. We need to move you both to a secure location, she said. The United States government has refused their demand for extradition, but we cannot risk them finding this facility. As they hurried down a corridor, alarms began to sound. Zolorian transport. Signature detected, announced an automated voice. Unauthorized landing in progress. Kylara stopped. This is my fault, she said. I should surrender myself. No, said Diane firmly. We're in this together. Before they could argue further, the wall before them shimmered and dissolved, revealing a tall, regal Zolorian male flanked by royal guards. Father, gasped Kylara. King Zorn of Zoloria stepped forward, his eyes fixed on his daughter. So this is where you have been hiding. King Zorn read through Kylara's latest report with a deep frown. Each new message showed his daughter growing more fascinated with human ways, especially their approach to child-rearing. This was not what the elders had intended when they sent her to Earth. Perhaps we should recall her, suggested Elder Vorax, before she becomes too contaminated by their ideas. The king sat back in his crystal throne, his 6 fingers tapping rhythmically. She was always stubborn, he said, always questioning. Let her continue her research. For now she is merely observing. We will intervene if necessary. Back on Earth, Kylara had begun accompanying Diane to the university. She wore her human disguise, a perception filter that made her blue skin and antennae invisible. To most humans, she sat in on Diane's astronomy classes, fascinated by the primitive but passionate way humans studied the stars. After class, a male human approached them. Professor Mason, he said, nodding to Diane. Your lecture on exoplanet atmospheres was fascinating. Thank you, Kyle, said Diane. This is my friend Kylara Shez visiting from abroad. The man smiled at Kylara. Welcome to America, he said, extending his hand. Dean Ellis, head of the astronomy department. Kylara hesitated before taking his and remembering the human custom of shaking. Even through her perception filter, she could sense the man's emotions, curiosity, mostly, but also attraction to Diane. The concept fascinated her. On Zaloria, mating was arranged based on genetic compatibility, but humans chose partners based on these emotional responses. As they walked home, Kylara asked Diane about the man. That Dean Ellis he shows attraction to. You, Diane nearly tripped. Are you serious? How can you tell? Kylara tapped her concealed antennae. My people can sense emotions, it was quite clear. Diane blushed. Well, it doesn't matter, as my boss, it would be inappropriate. Why? Asked Kylara. Do your mating laws forbid it? Diane laughed. It's not a law, just professional ethics. I don't date people, I work with. Date? Kylara repeated the unfamiliar term. Diane explained the human courtship process, how they spent time together before deciding if they were compatible for mating or partnership. Kylara found it hopelessly inefficient, but strangely appealing, the idea that two beings could choose each other rather than being assigned. That weekend, Diane took Kylara to visit Beth and baby Lily again. The infant had changed in just 2 weeks. Her eyes tracked movement. Her tiny hands reached for objects. She recognized her mother and aunt, making soft sounds when they held her. Kylara watched in amazement. She learned so quickly, she whispered. Babies are like sponges, said Beth. They absorb everything around them. Kylara had been studying human child development. Intensely, she knew the basics, but seeing it happen before her eyes was different. The baby looked at her with curious eyes, showing no fear of her alien features, which were visible to the infant despite the perception. Filter, would you like to hold? Her asked Beth. Kylara hesitated but nodded. Beth carefully placed Lily in her arms, showing her how to support the baby's head. The warm weight of the tiny human felt strange against Kylara's chest. Lily looked up at her and made a small gurgling sound. She's smiling at you, said Diane. She likes you. Something shifted inside Kylara as she held the infant. A protective feeling she had never experienced before. This tiny being who knew nothing, who would learn everything, who could become anything, looked at her without judgment, without predetermined ideas. And Kylara looked back, feeling something dangerously close to what humans called love. That night after they returned home, Kylara made a decision that would change everything. Then she said, I want to have a child. Diane, who had been making tea, dropped the cup she was holding. What I want to create offspring, continued Kylara, her antennae glowing with excitement through the perception filter. A being without predetermined knowledge, a being that can choose its own destiny. But Kylara, began Diane, her face flushed. We can't just, humans and Zalorians are completely different species. The princess waved dismissively. I am aware of the biological incompatibilities, but my people have technology that could make it possible. We can combine genetic material without traditional methods. Diane stared at her. You can't be serious. I have never been more serious, said Kylara. I have studied your world's approach to offspring. It is chaotic, yes, but it creates possibility. It creates choice. She moved closer to Diane. On my world, children are born already knowing who they will be, what they will do. They never question, they never dream, they never choose. Diane sat down slowly. But why me? Why a human? Because you have shown me another way, said Kylara simply. Because you teach others to see the stars in new ways, because you would let a child choose its own path. Diane shook her head. This is impossible. It's against nature. Is it? Asked Kylara. My people have been manipulating genetics for 10,000 years. We create perfect children with perfect memories, with perfect predetermined paths. But are they truly alive if they never choose over the next few days? Diane avoided the topic, but Kylara was persistent. She showed Diane research on Zalorian genetic technology, explaining how it could work, how they could combine their DNA to create a hybrid child. She described the medical pods that could nurture the embryo to term without either of them carrying. Why is this so important to you? Asked Diane finally. Kylara was silent for a long moment. Because I never had a choice, she said finally. From the moment of my conception, I was the fifth daughter of the royal house destined to serve as diplomatic liaison. My memories, my skills, my future, all predetermined. I never questioned it until I came here. Until I saw how your people live. Until I saw Lily Diane studied the alien princess, seeing her in a new light. The arrogance that had initially defined Kylara had transformed into something else. A yearning for freedom. You were sent here as punishment, weren't you? Said Diane. Not as an exchange student. Kylara nodded. I questioned our mating protocols publicly. I suggested that perhaps genetic compatibility was not the only factor that should be considered in choosing a mate. The elders were outraged. My father sent me here to learn why human ways lead to chaos. Diane laughed softly. So giving you to a human was their idea of a joke, a prank to teach you a lesson, and now you want to have a child with me that would really show them, wouldn't it? Kylara smiled for the first time since arriving on Earth. Yes, it would, against her better judgment. Diane found herself considering the idea. She had always wanted children, but at 30 with no partner and a demanding career, it had seemed unlikely. Now an alien princess was offering her the chance to be a mother to a unique child, a bridge between worlds. I need time to think about this, said Diane. Of course, said Kylara. But do not take too long. My people will expect a progress report soon. If they suspect what I am planning, they will recall me immediately. That night, Diane called her sister Beth. I have something crazy to tell you, she said, and I need your advice. While Diane confided in her sister, Kylara sent a carefully worded message to her only ally on Zaloria, her attendant Mila. She requested information about the Royal Genetic Laboratory, specifically the protocols for interspecies combination, something that had been theorized but never attempted, the perfect rebellion against everything her people stood for. I am not hiding, father, said Kylara, standing tall. I am choosing my path. For the first time in my life. The king studied his daughter, then turned his gaze to Diane. So you are the human who has corrupted my daughter? Diane met his gaze without flinching. Your daughter made her own choices, Your Majesty. No one corrupted her. She simply learned there are different ways to live. The facility director stepped forward. King Zorn, this facility is under the protection of the United States government. Your presence here violates several diplomatic agreements. The king waved a dismissive hand. I have not come to create conflict with Earth. He said, I have come for my daughter. I will not return. Father, said Kylara, I have decided to create a new life here. A child born of both worlds, a child who will choose their own destiny. The king's expression revealed nothing. You received my message. You know the consequences. I do, said Kylara. I accept them. The king turned to his guards. Leave us, he commanded. When they hesitated, he added, I wish to speak with my daughter alone. Once the guards had left along with the facility staff, only Kylara, Diane, the king, and the facility director remained in the corridor. What you propose has never been done, said the king, his voice softer now. A child of two worlds. No predetermined memories. No genetic destiny. I know, said Kylara. That is why it must be done, father. Our people have lost something in our pursuit of perfection. We have lost possibility. The king was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke words that shocked everyone. I have spoken with your mother. Kylara stared at him in disbelief. Mother has been in cryosleep for 50 years. Her genetic illness has progressed beyond treatment, said the king. I awakened her when I received word of your plans. She wished to speak with me before she wished to tell me something she had kept secret. He looked directly at Kylara. You were not conceived in the traditional Zalorian way. What do you mean? Asked Kylara. Your mother refused the memory transfer protocol, said the king quietly. You were born without predetermined memories. Kylara. The first royal child in 10 generations to be born. Truly new. Kylara felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. That is impossible, she whispered. "The royal protocols, your mother and I broke them," said the king. "She believed as you do that our children should choose their own paths. She kept this secret all these years, fearing the elders would take you away, if they knew the memories you received were implanted after birth, not during conception." Diane stepped closer to Kylara, supporting her as the princess swayed in shock. "Why are you telling me this now?" asked Kylara. The king looked suddenly tired. "Your mother made me promise. On her deathbed, she made me promise to tell you the truth, to tell you that she was proud of your courage. For questioning, for choosing." Tears slid down Kylara's blue cheeks. "Mother is gone," said the king. "Her last request was that I give you this." From beneath his royal robes, he withdrew a small crystal container similar to the one Kylara had planned to use for the hybrid embryo. But this one glowed with a faint lavender light. "This contains the last of your mother's genetic material," said the king. "Preserved before her illness advanced. She wished for you to have it, for your child if you still choose this path." Kylara took the container with trembling hands. "You would allow this?" The king looked at Diane, studying the human woman. "There was always a faction on our world that believed, as your mother did, that our rigid adherence to genetic purity and predetermined paths was leading us to stagnation. I did not listen to them. Then I sent you here as punishment. And now I find you following your mother's path despite everything." He turned back to Kylara. "The elders believe I have come to bring you home by force if necessary. And have you asked Kylara? I have come to witness," said the king, "to see what you would choose when faced with losing everything. What would a daughter with no predetermined path choose?" Diane spoke up. "Sir, your majesty, with respect, your daughter has chosen love. She has chosen to create a new life that bridges our worlds. She has chosen hope." The king nodded. I see that he looked at Kylara. "Your mother would be proud. And perhaps I am too." He reached into his robes again and withdrew a second container. "This contains something else," he said. "Technical specifications for our most advanced gestation chamber, modified for hybrid conception. It will ensure the child survives." Kylara stared at her father. "Why would you?" "Because 10,000 years of the same path has led our people to the edge of genetic collapse," admitted the king. "Because your mother was right. We need new paths. Your child may be the first of many. A new future for both our worlds." The facility director, who had remained silent, stepped forward. "Are you proposing an official alliance between Earth and Zeloria?" The king straightened, his royal demeanor returning. "Not yet," he said. "That is for the future. For now, I am simply a father helping his daughter. The official story will be that Princess Kylara remains on Earth as a cultural ambassador. Any child she may have will be considered a private matter." He turned to leave, then stopped. "My daughter," he said softly, "remember that to choose is both a freedom and a burden. Your child will face challenges no being has faced before, neither fully human nor fully Zelorian. But perhaps that is what both our worlds need. A bridge, a new beginning." 3 years later, Kylara and Diane stood in the garden of their new home on the outskirts of Las Vegas. Watching their daughter play, the child had Kylara's blue-tinted skin and slight antennae, but Diane's dark curly hair and brown eyes. She was an extraordinary being, the first of her kind, named Lyra after both Earth and Zelorian stars. The official story was that Kylara had adopted a human child. Though certain governments knew the truth, the child had become something of a secret celebrity among those aware of her existence. A symbol of what might be possible. "What memories would you have given her in the Zelorian way?" asked Diane as they watched Lyra examining a butterfly with wonder. Kylara smiled. "Everything I knew of the stars, the history of my people, the royal protocols." But she continued, watching as Lyra laughed and chased the insect. "I think I prefer this way. She will make her own memories, discover her own stars." Behind them, a communication panel chimed. Kylara answered it, revealing the face of her father. The king had aged in the past 3 years, his once vibrant blue skin now paler, but his eyes were bright as he looked at his granddaughter. The elders have finally agreed. He said, "The limited exchange program begins next month. 10 Zalorian children born without predetermined memories to be raised among humans, and 10 human children to study on Zaloria." Diane joined Kylara at the panel. "That is wonderful news," she said. "It is only the beginning," said the king. "Your daughter has changed everything. The way we think about memory, about destiny, about what it means to be Zalorian or human Lyra." Noticing the communication ran over Grandpa, she called her voice melodic in the way of Zalorians. "Look what I found." She held up the butterfly now perched on her blue finger, its wings slowly opening and closing. "It is beautiful, little one," said the king, "just as beautiful as you." After the communication ended, Diane and Kylara sat together on a bench watching their daughter return to her exploration of the garden. "When they sent me here, it was a joke," said Kylara. "A punishment, a prank to teach me humility." Diane took her hand. "Instead, you taught them something about courage." Kylara nodded. "And you taught me something about love." Above them, Earth's moon was rising, while in the darkening sky the first stars became visible. Among them, invisible to the human eye, but clear to Zalorian vision, was the homeworld Kylara had left behind once. It had seemed the center of all knowledge, all civilization. Now it was simply one world among many, one path among infinite possibilities. Lyra ran to them, her small face alight with excitement. "Mommy, Mama," she called, using the different names she had for her 2 mothers. "I want to be a space explorer when I grow up. Can I?" Kylara lifted her daughter into her arms. "You can be anything you choose. Little one," she said. "That is your gift. That is your heritage. You can choose." And in that moment, under an Earth sky, watching her human partner and their hybrid child, Kylara finally understood what her mother had tried to teach her, what she had discovered for herself. The greatest gift was not perfect memory or predetermined destiny, but possibility, the chance to choose to love, to become something new, something that had never existed before. The prank the elders had played in sending her to Earth had become something else entirely. It had become hope.